That was Stephen King's first movie as a director, and it was part of a whole series of Stephen King films being done by the Dino De Laurentiis entertainment group. And Stephen King was talking to this director, and he's like, "What were you doing before this?" And she was like, "Oh, I was getting ready to work with Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell on Evil Dead 2." And he's like, "Oh, how's it going?" And she's like, "They can't get money." Stephen King has the greatest review of the first Evil Dead. So much so that it was like plastered on every VHS poster, all that kind of stuff. And let me see if I can find it.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to trust Stephen King's reviews over everything.
Yes.
Like, I really do. Like, anytime Stephen King says something like, I appreciate it, but maybe it's not like a good horror, but I appreciate what it's doing. I'm like, I usually have the kind of same mindset. I'm like, I appreciate what you're doing. It's not my favorite, but I appreciate what you're doing.
He called it the most ferociously original horror film of the year. So that was what he said about the first one.
The first one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when he heard that they couldn't get money.
Isn't that ridiculous that Stephen King has been alive to where he can give a review for the first Evil Dead?
Yeah.
God, when that man dies, the whole horror community is gonna lose their minds.
Sad day, 'cause he's a good dude too.
He's a great man. Yeah. Like, he really is a good man. Great dude.
His tweets about his corgi are amazing also.
His corgi?
Yeah, he has a corgi.
Yeah, Molly. Yeah. Her name's Molly.
The thing of evil, I think he calls her.
I love it.
So when Stephen King heard they couldn't get money, he went to Dino De Laurentiis and he was like, "You got to make this movie." And that's how they got financing for Evil Dead 2. Because Stephen King said, "You need to make this movie."
Imagine it would be pretty hard if his game plan was to tell his investors that he's basically remaking a movie that he made 6 years ago. One thing I noticed about this movie, I noticed it when I was little, but I really noticed it last night, is when you see the shots of the outside of the cabin, it's very, very small. It looks
it's very tiny. It looks like it's just like a one room.
Yeah, and when it's inside, it's massive.
Yeah,
and
it's very Harry Potter effect. You know what I mean? Like, it's like in Harry Potter. Well, I mean, before Harry Potter was Harry Potter,
right?
But like, if you notice, if you watch like Goblet of Fire, I don't know if you've watched have you watched Harry Potter movies?
I've watched them all. It was a while ago. I can't say I retained anything.
No, of course. But in the Goblet of Fire, there's a scene where the Weasleys, Harry and Hermione, go into the Weasleys' tent, and from the outside it looks like a pup tent. So it's just like a, upside down V or whatever. And then you walk in, it's this like ginormous, like almost like glamping style tent. So it's very, very similar.
It's bigger on the inside, like the TARDIS from Doctor Who.
I've never seen Doctor Who.
I haven't either.
Hey, now it's just not my jam. I'm not a time person. That's fine. You know what I mean?
It's just something that I haven't watched. I'm not opposed to watching it. I just have things to do. And
you're very Doctor Who today.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Cool.
Never seen Game of Thrones either.
You've seen what?
I've never seen Game of Thrones either.
Yeah, I haven't either.
I have time commitment. Like I don't have.
There's too much content. That's the fucking problem.
Too much to try to keep up on. Like, too many names. Everyone dies.
Well, no, in general, there's too much content. Everyone's like, "Oh, have you watched Squid Game?" No, there's 30 other things I want to watch first.
Yeah.
Even 10 years ago, you would have to spend a whole bunch of money to be able to access this much content.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. And now, like, all you have to do is download Amazon Prime and get a bunch of channels, and then you just go to one thing and you have everything you need.
All right. And right now in the movie, the preppy people showed up. I don't really know what to call them. The daughter and her boyfriend.
So Professor Nobi's daughter, and his name's Ed, because he's Evil Ed later.
Well, he looks like his name should be Chad.
Yes, it does. That's Sarah Berry as Annie Nobi, Richard Domeyer as Ed Getley. So she has pages from the Necronomicon.
And she keeps carrying them around in that display case thing. Even when they're like walking through the woods, she's like carrying them in a glass display case.
Yeah, it's a weird way to carry them. I don't know. It doesn't seem super safe.
And when they decide to open up and look at the pages, they break the glass. And then instead of opening it, there's hinges on the case. Like you can just open it.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Just like the last resort, just break it. You could just open it.
One of my favorite things about this movie is how much time Bruce Campbell spends by himself.
Yeah, it's just Bruce Campbell's chronic, or I'm sorry, let's rephrase that. It's Ash.
Yeah,
it's just Ash's story. Yeah. Like that's.
And it's fascinating how well he is able to carry all of this stuff just by existing and responding to the batshit stuff going on around him.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff I love about the film now, I started getting when I was older. Like when I was a kid, I loved it because it was funny and gory, and it's just a crazy horror movie. But I look at it now, and like the way the movie's shot, it's almost like a noir film. Like the high highs and the dark blacks and the silhouettes it uses, it's just incredible. Like stuff like that just flew over my head when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, wow, it's just Sam Raimi's he's just a modern genius.
He is someone who came out of the canon fully formed, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, he knew what he wanted to do and he knew how to do it.
Yeah. I read someone asked Bruce Campbell about the first time that he met Sam Raimi, and it was like 8th grade. And he said Sam was like, I think, sitting in a hallway, dressed like Sherlock Holmes and playing with dolls. And he was like, "What are you doing?" And he was like, "I'm making a movie." And there was no camera anywhere, but he was taking and in his head making the movie. So he's someone who like lived and breathed film, and like that's why his movies had such a strong style from the start, because he was literally doing it in his head from the time that he could, pick up a camera, because they all sorts of Super 8 movies,
which is such a cool fucking camera. Love a Super 8 camera.
Yeah, I would say the only thing that really changes about him is his budgets and the technology.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, so there's a scene in here. So this kind of correlates to another very famous horror movie. So there's a glove in this movie belonging to Freddy Krueger from Nightmare on Elm Street, the 1984, the original, hanging above the door of the tool shed when Ash carves his girlfriend's head with a chainsaw.
Yeah.
So who doesn't love that? That's awesome. And this was in response to the use of the Evil Dead on the television screen in A Nightmare on Elm Street. So that's really cool that they just like kind of flip-flopped.
Little how do you do?
Yep.
One thing I also noticed about this, when this is a blood heavy movie, there's a lot of blood spraying.
Oh, it's so good. Over the top.
There's like black blood and green blood and blue blood. It's not just your standard normal Hollywood red.
If you notice, Ash's blood is almost always red, and the
demon blood is always a different color.
And they did that to try and like cut off an X rating at the pass, because they wanted to be able to release the movie as an R. And when they finally finished it, they were like, "There's no way this movie's getting an R." And Sam was like, "I could cut it down to 63 minutes and we might get an R rating." So the Dino De Laurentiis Entertainment Group actually couldn't release an X-rated movie for some reason. So Rosebud is a shell corporation that they set up just for the releasing of this movie, so they could release it uncut.
Yeah.
Did
not know that. I think I'm meeting my nerd match today, guys.
Well, I did some research, and I read the original. There's an Evil Dead companion book. Yeah.
Fun. That's really cool. Oh my God, I love this. I love this so much.
So right now, Ash, his
got bit.
Decapitated girlfriend.
Yep.
Has risen from the grave.
Linda. This is Linda.
Yes.
Yeah. Bites Ash's hand. So Bruce Campbell says the single line work shed in this scene right here. But the line was later redubbed in the post-production due to the quality of the audio of this particular scene.
It was added totally. Like they didn't.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I love how he pulls back the curtain and there's like just the outline of where the chainsaw is supposed to be. Like who does that? Like in my kitchen, I have little outlines of the forks and knives. Yeah, it looks so cool. Like he has the black blood dripping down his face along with the red blood. It's just such a cool look. Nobody had ever done anything like that before. At least not that I know of.
No. And it was an interesting choice to try and cut off the X rating at the pass. I don't know how they ever thought anything in this movie would give them anything less than an X, because it's
I mean, look at this scene right here. We're seeing
there's a zombie boob.
There's a zombie boob. It's a decapitated body that's just like running around with a chainsaw directly in the middle of it. So I mean, it's not possible for this movie not to get anything else but an X-ray.
And you'll notice that Linda's head gets some black goo coming from the mouth.
Yeah.
Suddenly, there's actually about a half dozen deleted scenes, and the scene right before that, she actually had been spewing black bile out at Ash, and that's where it came from. But that scene was cut in post-production and then honestly lost. Like there's a ton of things that they filmed and just don't have the footage anymore, which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah, they didn't have hard drives and stuff like that back then. It was all film in a canister.
We talked about it on our Lon Chaney episode.
Yeah. When we just recently did the Phantom of the Opera,
Mhm.
the 1925. So we just talked about.
But the original films of Lon Chaney, like only I think 55 of them actually exist anymore.
Yeah, films like Burnt or Lost.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and the film, half of them, they can't do anything to restore them because they're just so fragile
Yeah.
that if you touch them and breathe on them, they fucking
Yeah, they
crumble.
fall apart.
Yeah,
Dang.
isn't that crazy?
Isn't that, it's heartbreaking because like you're missing historic, like beautiful film that like they put out and everything. And it's crazy to see. I don't know if you've ever like kind of watched a movie through the decades, but it's amazing to watch like just the sheer difference between the Phantom of the Opera 1925 versus The Man Who Laughs 1928. I mean, there were so many differences just in that 3-year span. It was amazing. So it is very sad that we miss out on those movies, you know, because we could literally see history being made through film.
Yeah.
And the different styles and everything too.
Wasn't there an 80s remake of Phantom of the Opera with Robert Englund starring?
I will lose my shit if that's true.
I think it is.
Hold on, because who doesn't want to see fucking Freddy Krueger be the Phantom of the
I
Opera?
could be mistaken, but
If this is true, you're coming back on and we're gonna do this.
okay. I can't say that it's a good movie or anything.
I don't care. It doesn't have to be. Thanksgiving is not a good movie.
Yes.
But it's fucking amazing.
Never seen Thanksgiving either. I might have to check that one out.
It's just, Chris, it's bad. I'm telling, it's entertaining, but it's bad. So just know that going in.
It is a movie that benefits from chemical substances.
Very much so.
You guys finding anything? I could be misremembering.
I'm looking.
Oh, I'm looking. Oh, I'm taking it on back because I imagine it's going to be like 80s.
Mm-hmm. I know there's a movie called Phantom of the Paradise.
Prime England time was 80s.
Put it on Wikipedia. Phantom of the Opera 1989 film. Not seeing
he was. Yes, he was. Yep, 1989 Phantom of the Opera. He was the Phantom. Chris, we're doing this next week.
If you look at the movie poster,
it's even incredible.
He looks like Freddy Krueger.
He really does. And like if you look at the writing of the title of the movie, it literally is just it's nightmare. It's basically just a nightmare. Yeah, Robert Englund was Freddy, and then it says now he's the Phantom of the Opera. And an all new nightmare. So basically it's just the nightmare. Yeah. It's a Nightmare on Elm Street, but like a Phantom of the Opera version.
Well, I'm glad I could deliver that to you guys.
Thank you. Thank you for introducing me to that. I'm so excited. We're going to jump on that in a little bit.
All right, so Ash just got his hand possessed. Something.
I'm sorry, but like, there's nothing better to me than him putting on the chainsaw. And I'm sure you've seen Army of Darkness and how just from start to finish that movie is terrible, but it's
amazing.
This is another one.
I love
Army of Darkness is better than Thanksgiving, but they're both bad. So if you've seen Army of Darkness, you know how bad it is, but you still love it. Go into that with that knowledge on Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought up Army of Darkness. Evil Dead 2 was originally supposed to be the Medieval Dead. So they wanted to do the entire thing as the Medieval Dead, but when Sam brought the script in, they were like, there's no way we can make this movie for the budget we have.
Sure.
And he was like, well, okay. And so he redid the script with the cabin, but he said, I'm putting it in at the end that he goes back to medieval times in case we get to do a third one.
Yeah.
We're already there.
And he did.
Did you hear Bart, Gene? Did you hear Bart? I don't think so, honestly. Yeah. Do you see her head?
I see her ear. Yeah, Josie's over here freaking out. She freaks out at any dog that walks by or any delivery person.
Yeah. June's working on that.
June has had quite a bit of training, but like she's a part shepherd, so the attitude comes first, training comes second.
So I love the physicality of Ash wrestling with his hand.
It's very, I mean, you guys have seen Idle Hands.